Mining Station Delta 7 floated like a silver jewel against the backdrop of the Kepler Nebula, its rotating sections catching starlight as massive ore processors worked day and night. The station housed 300 families, all part of humanity's bold push into the Outer Rim territories, where precious metals and rare elements waited to be harvested from asteroid fields. 8-year-old Ji-Ho Kim pressed his face against the observation deck's reinforced glass, watching robotic mining drones dance between floating rocks the size of cities. His dark eyes sparkled with wonder as a massive harvester ship docked at the station's main port, its cargo holds filled with crystalline formations that glowed with inner light. "Look, Appa!" Ji-Ho called to his father, Engineer Dongmin Kim, who was running diagnostics on the station's power grid. "The aurora crystals are singing again." Dongmin smiled, setting down his tablet. The crystals did indeed emit a harmonic frequency that sounded almost musical when they were fresh from the asteroid cores. "Your mother will want to study those. She thinks they might be alive somehow." Dr. Haewon Kim worked in the station's xenobiology lab, studying the strange life forms they occasionally discovered in the deep void. Ji-Ho loved visiting her lab, where alien specimens floated in containment fields, their bioluminescent patterns creating light shows that fascinated the boy for hours. Ji-Ho's room was a testament to his dreams of exploration. Star charts covered every wall, showing trade routes, nebulae, and unexplored sectors. His prized possession was a collection of mineral samples from dozens of worlds, some that changed color with temperature, others that hummed with electromagnetic energy, and a few that seemed to move on their own when no one was watching. "One day, I'll discover a whole new star system," Ji-Ho would tell anyone who listened. "Maybe even find aliens who want to be friends with humans." 3 sectors away, in the obsidian towers of the Vorthak Empire's capital world, a very different conversation was taking place. The High Council chamber stretched upward into darkness, filled with representatives from 43 conquered species. The Vorthak themselves were tall, skeletal beings with forearms and skin that shifted between purple and black, depending on their mood. Supreme Chancellor Vexthanor stood at the center of the chamber, his voice echoing through translation devices. "The humans spread like infection across our territory. They establish colonies where we forbid settlement. They mine resources we have claimed. Diplomacy has failed." Councillor Zalfek, whose species had been enslaved by the Vorthak centuries, Kego raised a trembling appendage. "Perhaps we could establish boundaries, create treaties." Silence. Vexthanor's skin flashed angry red. "Fear is the only language these creatures understand. We will demonstrate the price of defying our empire." The war computers processed thousands of human settlements, analyzing which target would create maximum psychological impact. Children were noted as particularly valued by human culture. The system identified Mining Station Delta 7, and specifically Ji-Ho Kim, the son of prominent researchers, young enough to generate maximum emotional response. The assassin chosen for the mission was Korthavel, a shadow operative enhanced with stealth technology that made him nearly invisible. His transport ship, no larger than a shuttle, approached Delta 7 using routes known only to smugglers and pirates. On the station, life continued peacefully. Ji-Ho had just finished his evening lessons and was arranging his mineral collection when the lights dimmed for sleep cycle. The station's rotation slowed, artificial gravity adjusted to promote rest, and most families settled into their quarters. Haewon tucked her son into bed, reading him stories about brave explorers who discovered wonders among the stars. Dongmin checked the evening security reports. All systems normal, no unusual traffic in the sector. Korthavel's ship attached itself to the station's maintenance section like a metallic parasite. He moved through ventilation shafts with liquid grace, his forearms allowing him to navigate spaces impossible for humans. His mission parameters were simple: eliminate the child, leave evidence of Vorthak involvement, escape before security could respond. The breach alarm screamed through Delta 7's corridors at 0347 station time. Haewon jolted awake, her scientists' mind immediately processing the sound. Hull breach level 7 residential section. Her section, Ji-Ho's section. She ran barefoot through corridors filled with emergency lighting, her heart hammering as she realized the breach was near her son's room. Security doors sealed automatically, but she overrode them with her research credentials, pushing deeper into the affected area. Jiho's door stood open. Inside, a nightmare scene waited. The Vorthak assassin stood over her son's bed, a plasma blade crackling with deadly energy in his primary hand. Jiho lay motionless, his small body already marked by the alien weapon's first strike. The boy's collection of minerals scattered across the floor, some cracked and bleeding strange lights. Hay-Wan didn't think. She launched herself at the alien with a mother's fury, her small human frame colliding with the enhanced warrior. Korthvel, surprised by the unexpected attack, stumbled backward. His blade swept across Jiho again as he fell, the plasma energy burning through the child's side. The assassin threw Hay-Wan against the wall and fled, his mission technically complete. He believed the child would die from the toxins coating his blade, poisons specifically designed to be fatal to human physiology. Emergency teams flooded the room within minutes. Dongmin arrived to find his wife holding their unconscious son, both covered in blood that glowed strangely under the emergency lights. Jiho's breathing was shallow, his skin growing pale as alien toxins fought his immune system. The medical team worked frantically, their equipment struggling against compounds unknown to human science. They stabilized the boy, connected him to life support systems, but his condition remained critical. Within hours, the news spread across human space faster than light itself. The image that accompanied every report showed 8-year-old Jiho, Kim unconscious in a medical bed, tubes and monitors keeping his small body alive. The same boy who collected minerals and dreamed of finding friendly aliens now fought for his life, because those aliens had decided to send Earth a message written in a child's blood. The galaxy was about to learn that some messages demand very specific responses. The Seoul Defense Command Center buzzed with controlled chaos as reports flooded in from across human space. Admiral Seung-ho Park stood before the massive holographic display, showing Jiho Kim's vital signs in real time, transmitted from mining station Delta 7. The 8-year-old's heartbeat appeared as a weak green line on the screen, each pulse a reminder of how close humanity had come to losing one of their own. At 55, Seung-ho had grey threading through his black hair and lines around his eyes that spoke of decades spent protecting human colonies. He remembered first contact with the Altarian traders 20 years ago, the excitement of discovering they weren't alone in the universe. He had shaken tentacles with species that looked like walking crystals, negotiated mining rights with beings made of living metal, and even shared meals with aliens who breathed methane instead of oxygen. All of that goodwill felt like ancient history now as he watched a child's life hang in the balance. The command center's walls displayed star maps showing the positions of every human ship within 50 light-years of Earth. Cargo vessels, scientific expeditions, patrol cruisers, all marked with blue dots against the black of space. Red markers showed known alien territories, with the Vorthak Empire's borders clearly defined in harsh crimson lines. Admiral, Lieutenant Commander Jin Wuhan approached with a datapad, his usually steady voice carrying an edge. "We're receiving priority transmissions from 17 different human colonies. They're requesting immediate military protection." Seung-ho nodded grimly. Fear spread faster than light when transmitted through quantum communication networks. Every human family with children was probably looking at their doors right now, wondering if Vorthak assassins were coming for them next. Young Mai Li, his chief aide for the past 5 years, moved through the command center with practiced efficiency. At 32, she had coordinated humanity's response to everything from natural disasters to pirate attacks. But this was different. This felt personal in a way that military actions rarely did. "Sir," young Mi approached carefully, her tablet, displaying an urgent message. "The Vorthak ambassador is requesting a meeting. They're offering reparations." Seung-ho turned from the screen showing Jiho's medical readings. His voice was quiet, controlled, carrying the weight of a man who had spent his entire career trying to prevent exactly this kind of moment. Reparations for attempting to murder a child. The word reparations felt obscene in his mouth. Money and trade agreements couldn't heal the burns covering 8-year-old Jiho's body. Diplomatic concessions wouldn't neutralize the alien toxins, eating away at the boy's nervous system. Young Mai shifted uncomfortably. They claim it was a rogue operation not authorized by their High Council. They want to negotiate. They chose their target specifically, Sheng Ho interrupted, pointing to the intelligence reports scattered across his desk. Our analysts confirm they scanned thousands of human settlements before selecting mining station Delta 7. They wanted maximum psychological impact. They got it. Across the solar system, hidden facilities that had existed in the shadows of official military installations began receiving activation codes that hadn't been used in decades. On the dark side of Luna, massive doors opened in what appeared to be crater walls, revealing shipyards that officially didn't exist. Ships emerged that had never appeared in any fleet registry. Sleek vessels covered in armor that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. The Titan research station, buried beneath kilometers of ice, powered up reactors that had been maintained but never fully activated. Scientists who had spent their careers working on theoretical weapons suddenly found their projects becoming terrifyingly real. Dr. Kyung Soo Yoon stood in his laboratory on Europa, watching robotic arms assemble, devices that existed only in classified blueprints, nanite swarms designed to disassemble matter at the molecular level filled containment chambers, gravity manipulation devices that could crush ships into singularities hummed with barely contained energy. 20 years of research, he murmured, to his assistant, Dr. Miran Choi. 20 years of hoping we'd never need to build these things. Miran watched as production lines created ammunition that violated every galactic warfare convention. The Vorthak don't know what they've awakened. Mars General Tae-hyun Kim received orders that made his blood run cold. The Red Planet's military academies began graduating officers early, sending them to command ships that had been built in secret for scenarios everyone hoped would never occur. These weren't the exploration vessels that had carried humanity to the stars. These were instruments of war designed by a species that had learned to build bridges but never forgotten how to build weapons. Back in Seoul Command, Seung Ho activated his personal authorization codes. Protocol 7 had been theoretical since humanity first encountered alien life. Contingency plans created by pessimists who believed that eventually someone in the galaxy would force humanity to remember its violent origins. The protocol was simple in concept, terrifying in execution. If any alien species deliberately targeted human civilians, especially children, humanity would respond not as explorers or diplomats, but as the descendants of a world that had survived ice ages, plagues, and global wars through sheer stubborn determination to protect their young. Young Mai watched the activation sequence with growing alarm. "Sir, are you certain? Once we initiate Protocol 7, there's no taking it back." Seung Ho looked at the screen showing Ji-ho Kim fighting for his life. The boy's mineral collection lay scattered around his hospital bed, colorful stones from distant worlds that he had dreamed of exploring someday. Dreams that might die along with him if the alien toxins won their battle against human medicine. They made their choice when they put a plasma blade to a sleeping child, Seung Ho said, quietly. Now they'll live with the consequences. Across human space, every military commander received the same message. Activation of Protocol 7 was authorized. The gloves were coming off. Humanity's long experiment with peaceful coexistence had just ended in an 8-year-old's hospital room. The Vorthak had wanted to send a message about the price of defying their empire. They were about to receive a response about the cost of threatening humanity's children. In the depths of space, engines that had never been fired began their startup sequences. Weapons that existed only in nightmares prepared for their first and final test. The species that had built cities among the stars was remembering how to wage total war. The galaxy was about to discover why humans had conquered their own world before reaching for others. The celebration halls of the Vorthak capital world rang with triumphant roars as news of the successful strike reached the High Council. Supreme Chancellor Vex Thanor stood on his throne platform, his forearms raised in victory while holographic displays showed human colony ships retreating from disputed territories. The assassination had worked exactly as planned. "The humans scatter like frightened insects," declared War Minister Krathmok, his purple skin glowing with satisfaction. "Their mining operations in the Kepler sector have already begun evacuation." Procedures. Fear spreads through their colonies faster than our fastest ships. Across the Vorthak Empire's 43 controlled systems, military commanders received new orders. Fleet Admiral Zexikorin studied invasion routes through human space on his flagship's tactical display. The humans had only 12 major colonies, and perhaps 50 mining stations. With their spirit broken by the child's death, occupation would be simple. Begin Phase 2, Vexthanor commanded. Deploy our battle fleets to human borders. They will surrender their territory to avoid further unpleasantness. The Vorthak military machine moved with practiced efficiency. Massive dreadnoughts that had conquered dozens of species began their journey toward human space. Each ship stretched over 2 kilometers long, armed with plasma cannons that could crack planets and shields that had never been penetrated by enemy. Fire. They never saw the attack coming. Captain Hyunwoo Choi sat in the command chair of the HSS Retribution, a ship that didn't exist in any official records. Unlike the white and blue exploration vessels the galaxy knew, his ship was matte black, its hull covered in materials that bent light around them. No registry numbers marked its surface. No diplomatic flags flew from its arrays. Around him, the bridge hummed with quiet efficiency. His crew had trained for this moment in secret facilities, running simulations of battles they hoped would never happen. Now, as they materialized from hyperspace above the Vorthak homeworld, those simulations became deadly reality. All fleet elements report status. Hyun-woo spoke into his comm system. Phoenix Group in position over Vorthak Prime, came the reply from Captain So-young Park. Dragon Group targeting the Nexus system, reported Captain Woo-jin Kang. Tiger. Group has the industrial worlds, confirmed Captain Hyojin Ryu. 8 Vorthak systems, 8 human attack groups. The coordination was perfect, the timing flawless. Across a section of space spanning hundreds of light years, humanity's hidden fleet had appeared simultaneously, like ghosts materializing from nightmares. The Vorthak defenders reacted with practiced military precision. Their massive battleships turned toward the human vessels, plasma cannons charging with deadly energy. Admiral Zexikorin himself commanded the defense of the homeworld from his flagship Dominator, a vessel that had never known defeat. Unknown. Human ships, you are in violation of Vorthak space. His transmission crackled across all frequencies. Withdraw immediately or face annihilation. Hyun-woo looked at the photograph taped to his console. Ji-ho Kim smiled back at him from the image. A boy holding a glowing crystal sample, his eyes bright with dreams of exploring the stars. The same eyes that were now closed in a medical bay, fighting alien poison. Deploy the nanites, Hyun-woo ordered calmly. Lieutenant Yoonji Shin's fingers danced across her control panel, releasing clouds of microscopic machines that had been humanity's deepest secret. The nanites spread through space like invisible death, each one smaller than a virus, but programmed with the molecular blueprints of Vorthak technology. The Dominator fired first, its main plasma cannon unleashing enough energy to vaporize a small moon. The beam struck the Retribution's position and passed harmlessly through empty space. The human ship had shifted into a dimension that Vorthak sensors couldn't detect, operating outside the conventional physics that governed galactic warfare. Impossible, Admiral Zexikorin snarled. No species has mastered dimensional phase technology. His answer came as his own ship began dissolving around him. The nanites had found their targets, breaking apart the Dominator's hull at the molecular level. Metal that had withstood stellar bombardments crumbled like sand. Weapon systems that had conquered star systems shut down as their components simply ceased to exist. Across the Vorthak fleet, the same horror repeated. Ships that had ruled space for millennia watched their armor plating flow away like liquid. Their energy shields flickered and died as the projectors turned to dust. Crews that had never known fear found themselves breathing vacuum as their vessels disintegrated around them. Sir, emergency transmission from the surface, Communications Officer Jae-ho Min reported. The Vorthak High Council is requesting immediate ceasefire. Hyun-woo watched the flagship Dominator break apart in silent explosions of escaping atmosphere. Through the expanding debris cloud, he could see escape pods launching desperately toward the planet below. The pods carried high-ranking officers who had ordered the attack on an 8-year-old boy. Sir, Lieutenant Yoonji Shin monitored the tactical display as more Vorthak ships attempted to surrender. Multiple vessels are dropping, their shields and powering down weapons. They're trying to surrender. The captain's eyes remained fixed on Ji-ho's photograph, the boy who collected minerals and dreamed of making friends among the stars, the child who now lay unconscious while human doctors fought to save his life from weapons designed specifically to kill human children. No quarter, no mercy, Hyunwoo said quietly. They chose this path when they attacked a child. The nanite clouds spread outward, consuming everything they touched. Vorthak space stations crumbled into their component atoms. Orbital platforms that had controlled trade routes for centuries became expanding fields of cosmic dust. Even the escape pods couldn't outrun the microscopic hunters, programmed to recognize and destroy anything of Vorthak origin. On the planet's surface, Supreme Chancellor Vexthanor watched his fleet die through the windows of his obsidian tower. The beings who had celebrated humanity's intimidation now screamed in terror, as human technology revealed itself to be beyond their comprehension. "Contact the other empires," he commanded his surviving aide. "Tell them what humans are capable of. Warn them." The transmission cut off as nanites reached the planet's atmosphere, beginning their systematic dismantling of everything the Vorthak had built. Cities that had stood for thousands of years began melting like ice in a furnace. From orbit, Hyunwoo watched the lights of civilization fade across the planet's surface. His crew worked in silence, monitoring systems that operated beyond known science. Around them, space filled with the debris of an empire that had ruled 43 species and believed itself untouchable. The retribution began moving toward the next target system. Throughout Vorthak space, similar scenes played out, as humanity's hidden fleets completed their deadly work. Species that had served the Empire for centuries watched their masters disappear, leaving behind only empty space and drifting atoms. In his medical bay on mining station Delta 7, Ji-ho Kim's vital signs remained weak but stable. He never woke to see the galaxy-spanning response to his attack. He never knew that his small life had triggered the complete destruction of an interstellar empire. But across human space, children slept safely in their beds, protected by parents who had remembered why their species had conquered Earth before, reaching for the stars. The reckoning had begun. The emergency session of the Galactic Council convened in panic as reports flooded in from across Vorthak space. Species that had never spoken to each other suddenly found themselves united by a single terrifying reality. Humanity had revealed weapons that made their greatest military achievements look like children's toys. Ambassador Krelvox of the Altarian Trade Union stood before the massive holographic display showing the systematic destruction of Vorthak systems. His crystalline body flickered with nervous energy as he watched entire fleets dissolve into cosmic dust. In 3 standard days, humans have eliminated 17 Vorthak battle groups. Their technology operates outside known physics. The Vorthak's own desperate transmissions played on repeat across every diplomatic frequency. Supreme Chancellor Vexthanor, his once proud voice reduced to broken pleas, offered everything his empire possessed. "We surrender unconditionally. We offer our remaining territories, our technology archives, tribute payments for the next 1,000 cycles. Please stop the slaughter." But the human response came not through private channels, but broadcast simultaneously to every species in the galaxy. Admiral Seung-ho Park's image appeared on screens from the galactic core to the Outer Rim territories, his weathered face showing no emotion as he delivered humanity's judgment. "Citizens of the galaxy," his voice carried the weight of absolute authority. The Vorthak Empire made a calculated decision to murder human children to demonstrate their power. They succeeded in demonstrating something, but not what they intended. "You declared war on our children. We accept." The transmission ended without negotiation terms, without conditions for surrender. Just acceptance of a war that the Vorthak had started by putting a plasma blade to an 8-year-old boy. Commander Taijin Yang stood on the bridge of the HSS Vengeance as it approached the Vorthak homeworld of Korth Prime. Unlike the previous attacks that had targeted military assets, his orders were comprehensive. His tactical display showed not just enemy fleet positions, but civilian infrastructure, agricultural centers, and even the atmospheric processes that kept the planet habitable. "Sir, receiving multiple surrender broadcasts from the surface," reported Lieutenant So-Min Kim, monitoring communications. "The High Council is evacuating to underground bunkers. They're offering complete capitulation." Tae-jin studied the planet below through the ship's sensors. 40 billion Vorthak lived on that world. Cities stretched across continents, connected by transport networks that had functioned for millennia. Orbital stations processed raw materials from asteroid mining operations. Agricultural satellites maintained food production for the entire system. All of it was marked for destruction. "Deploy atmospheric nanites," he commanded. "Begin with the orbital infrastructure." The first targets were the massive space elevators that connected the planet's surface to orbital manufacturing centers. Structures that reached from the ground to geosynchronous orbit began dissolving as nanite clouds consumed their carbon nanotube cables. The elevators fell like metallic rain, their collapse triggering seismic events across the planet's surface. Next came the orbital habitats, housing 15 million Vorthak civilians. The spinning wheels and cylinder cities that had been marvels of engineering became expanding clouds of their component atoms. Families that had lived their entire lives in space never had time to understand what was happening to them. On the planet's surface, panic spread faster than the descending nanite clouds. The Vorthak had ruled through fear for centuries, but they had never experienced it themselves. Now their own terror echoed through streets where they had once celebrated human intimidation. "Sir," Communications Officer Min Ho Park's voice carried a note of uncertainty. "The civilian population centers are requesting evacuation assistance. They claim non-combatant status." Tae-jin looked at the photograph mounted next to his command chair. 8-year-old Ji-ho Kim's smiling face reminded him why they were here. The boy who had never hurt anyone, who had dreamed of exploring the stars and finding friendly aliens. The child who now fought for his life because these same non-combatants had celebrated his attack. "Non-combatants don't celebrate child murder," he replied coldly. "Continue the operation." The atmospheric processes went next. Massive installations that had maintained breathable air for thousands of years simply ceased to exist as nanites reduced them to their component molecules. The planet's carefully maintained ecosystem began collapsing within hours. Agricultural centers that had fed billions vanished along with their orbital support systems. Transport networks connecting the continents dissolved into metallic dust. Even the underground bunkers where the High Council had fled found their life support systems failing as nanites ate through filtration equipment and power generators. Across the galaxy, other species watched the systematic elimination of the Vorthak Empire with growing horror. The Kalthran Confederacy, whose territories bordered human space, held an emergency session of their war council. "They're not just defeating the Vorthak," General Zixmara observed, his insectoid features trembling. "They're erasing them. Every ship, every station, every trace of their civilization." Within hours, the Kalthran government announced the immediate withdrawal of all military forces from human borders. Their formal statement apologized for any past misunderstandings and requested peaceful relations with humanity. The Nexus Coalition, a loose alliance of 12 species that had previously dismissed human territorial claims, began drafting formal apologies for past disputes. Their representatives scrambled to identify any actions that might be interpreted as hostile toward human interests. Even the mighty Draconian Empire, whose war fleets had conquered half the galaxy, quietly began relocating their forces away from human-controlled space. Species that had built their power on military strength suddenly realized that humans possessed weapons that made conventional warfare obsolete. Fear spread through galactic communication networks faster than human fleets moved through space. Trade routes that had operated for millennia suddenly diverted around human territory. Alien merchants who had once viewed humans as useful but minor partners now approached their colonies with the reverence typically reserved for dangerous natural phenomena. The Zephyrian Archive, the galaxy's oldest information-gathering organization, began compiling reports on human capabilities. Their analysis painted a terrifying picture of a species that had deliberately concealed its true nature behind a facade of peaceful exploration. Humans have maintained this technology in secret for decades, their report concluded. Their exploration ships, their mining operations, their peaceful colonies, all were cover for military preparations that exceed our comprehension. We have been living beside apex predators who chose to appear as herbivores. On research stations throughout the galaxy, alien scientists frantically tried to understand how human nanites could operate outside conventional physics. Their efforts failed completely. The technology remained incomprehensible, as if humans had learned to weaponize the fundamental forces that held reality together. Meanwhile, the destruction of Vorthak Prime entered its final phase. Commander Taijin Yang watched from orbit as the last lights of civilization faded across the planet's surface. 40 billion Vorthak had simply ceased to exist, along with every trace of their culture, their history, their achievements. "Sir, all targets eliminated," reported his tactical officer. "The planet is sterilized." Taijin nodded, making notes in his mission log. 1 world down, 42 more to go. The Vorthak Empire had controlled 43 systems across 1,000 light-years. Every single one would receive the same treatment. The galaxy had learned its lesson about threatening human children. But the education was far from over. The morning sun of New Sol Colony cast long shadows across the carefully maintained gardens, where Jiho Kim chased holographic butterflies between rows of earth flowers and alien crystalline plants. 6 months had passed since the attack that nearly claimed his life, and the 8-year-old boy showed no signs of the trauma that had shaken the galaxy to its core. His collection of mineral samples had grown during his recovery, with gifts arriving from human colonies across known space. Children from mining stations, research outposts, and terraforming worlds had sent him their most prized discoveries: glowing crystals from the Vega system, singing stones from the Centauri colonies, and even a piece of living metal from the frontier worlds that hummed with its own internal energy. "Look, Ioma," Jiho called to his mother, Dr. Haewon Kim, as she tended to her xenobiology specimens in the garden's research section. "The Aurora crystal is harmonizing with the Vegan samples." Haewon smiled, watching her son arrange his collection, with the same scientific curiosity that had driven her own career. The boy had no memory of the attack itself. The medical team had made sure of that during his treatment. To Jiho, the past 6 months had been an extended adventure, filled with new discoveries and the attention of adults who seemed unusually interested in his well-being. Above them, the sky held a sight that would have terrified most species in the galaxy. Human dreadnoughts moved in perfect formation through New Sol's atmosphere, their hulls reflecting the sunlight like predatory birds patrolling their territory. These weren't the exploration vessels that had carried humanity to the stars, but the weapons platforms that had erased an empire from existence. The HSS Retribution, Captain Hyunwoo Choi's flagship, led the patrol formation. Its hull bore no battle scars because nothing had survived long enough to damage it. The ship's nanite bays remained loaded with the microscopic weapons that had dissolved Vorthak civilization at the molecular level. On the bridge of his command vessel orbiting Earth, Admiral Seung-ho Park reviewed the daily intelligence reports with a mixture of satisfaction and weary acceptance of humanity's new role in galactic affairs. The transformation had been complete and terrifying in its efficiency. "Sir," his aide Youngmi Lee approached with the morning briefings, "the Altarian Trade Union has ratified the Child Protection Accords. That makes it unanimous. Every major galactic power has now adopted the protocols." Seung-ho nodded, scanning the document that had become the galaxy's new fundamental law. The language was simple and absolute. Human children were inviolate. Any species, government, or individual that threatened harm to human young would face immediate extinction. No warnings, no negotiations, no mercy. The Draconian Empire, whose fleets had once conquered half the galaxy, had been among the first to sign. Their war leader Caxthor had publicly stated that his species would rather face a supernova than risk humanity's wrath. The proud warriors, who had never retreated from any battle, now kept their forces permanently stationed at least 50 light-years from human territory. "What about the monitoring stations?" Seung-ho asked. "All operational, sir. We have sensor networks in 43 former Vorthak systems, plus early warning arrays in every major trade route. Any unusual activity near human colonies triggers immediate response protocols. The monitoring network was humanity's gift to galactic peace and its promise of swift retribution. Automated systems watched for any sign of military buildup near human space, while AI programs monitored communications for threats against human civilians. The galaxy had learned to police itself rather than risk another demonstration of human capabilities. Commander Tai Jin Yang's ship, the HSS Vengeance, patrolled the former Vorthak territories where 43 worlds now stood empty and lifeless. Occasionally, alien archaeologists requested permission to study the abandoned systems, trying to understand how an empire that had ruled for millennia could vanish so completely. Most of their research yielded the same conclusion. The Vorthak hadn't been defeated, they had simply been deleted from existence. On Kepler Station, where the original attack had occurred, engineer Dongmin Kim worked alongside alien technicians, who treated him with a mixture of respect and barely concealed fear. The mining operation had expanded dramatically, with species across the galaxy eager to provide resources and labor to human colonies. Trade agreements that had once taken years to negotiate were now signed within days. The Zephyrian delegation is requesting another cultural exchange, his supervisor mentioned during the daily briefing. They want to send teachers to human colonies to ensure proper understanding of human customs. The cultural exchange programs had become a galaxy-wide phenomenon. Alien species sent their best scholars to study human society, desperate to understand the psychology of their new overlords. They paid particular attention to human child-rearing practices, creating detailed guides on how to interact safely with young humans. Children's birthday parties on human colonies now received official greetings from alien governments. The Crystalline Consortium sent holographic gifts to every human child's special day. The Nexus Coalition had established a fund to provide educational materials for human schools. Even the reclusive energy beings of the Spiral Nebula emerged from their isolation to offer protection services for human nurseries. Back in New Soul's gardens, Jiho discovered that his latest mineral samples were reacting to each other in unexpected ways. The crystals from different worlds seemed to communicate, creating harmonious frequencies that made nearby plants grow faster and glow within a light. "I think they're trying to be friends," he told his mother, arranging the stones in patterns that maximize their resonance. "Maybe that's what the universe wants, for everything to work together." Haewon watched her son's innocent wisdom and felt a complex mixture of pride and sadness. Jiho would grow up in a galaxy where his safety was guaranteed by the complete destruction of those who had threatened him. He would never know the fear that had driven his parents to develop weapons capable of erasing entire civilizations. Admiral Seong-ho closed his reports and looked out at the stars that now belonged to humanity, through right of superior firepower rather than exploration or diplomacy. Earth's children played safely in gardens, scattered across dozens of worlds, protected by fleets that could unmake reality itself if necessary. The galaxy had learned its lesson through the extinction of the Vorthak Empire. Humanity was patient, kind and forgiving in their interactions with alien species. They shared technology, offered aid during disasters, and maintained peaceful relations with anyone who approached them in good faith, but threatened their children, and they became something beyond monsters, beyond predators, beyond anything the galaxy had ever imagined. They became inevitable, a force of nature that would pursue enemies across time and space, until nothing remained but empty systems and drifting atoms. Jiho Kim continued playing in his garden, arranging colorful stones from distant worlds, while human dreadnoughts kept silent watch overhead. The boy who had nearly died for the galaxy's education now lived under protection that had cost billions of lives to establish. The universe had a new order now, written in the ashes of the Vorthak Empire and enforced by weapons that operated outside conventional physics. Peace through superior firepower, maintained by a species that would cross any line to protect their young. In the end, the galaxy discovered that humanity's greatest strength wasn't their technology or their determination, but something far more dangerous, their absolute refusal to allow harm to come to their children, no matter what the cost in alien lives. The end.